Now, in this video, we're going to be talking about airlocks. No, not the ISS Quest style airlock. We're going to be talking about something that's used a bit more for fermentation. One of these stifled airlocks, or something similar to it. Let's get right to it. Now, let's talk about the fermentation process. Fermentation is the process of yeast consuming sugar and oxygen, releasing CO2 and alcohol, or as we like to call it, ethanol. Now, one of the byproducts of that fermentation process is that buildup of CO2 gas that's being created. Now, we have to have a way of dealing with that, and one of the ways of dealing with that is just simply to release it. Now, if we don't release it, then one of the problems with that is that pressure will continue to build up and build up and build up until the point where it's possible, more than likely, that you might find that your fermentation container, carboy, jug, demi-track, take your pick, could possibly explode. So in order to deal with that situation, we use airlocks. Now, one other positive aspect of using an airlock is to prevent the following situation from occurring. One day, while watching one of the results of fermentation, the release of CO2 happening in your airlock, you see something suspended in your airlock liquid and you decide to take a closer look and realize there are fruit flies in there. So what happens if one or more flies make their way through the airlock and takes a header into your wine? Now, I did do a video on this in more detail, and you can find the link by clicking on one of the above. All right, now then, let's talk about different kinds of airlocks that we can use in our fermentation process. Now, one of the simplest methods of creating an airlock in your fermentation vessel is the simplest one, and that's the loose cap method. Basically, you're starting out, you don't have any airlocks or hydrometers or racking canes or you don't have none of that equipment. All you got is just the jug that the juice came in and the cap that was on it. And the easiest way of doing that is simply this. Just once you've got everything in there, your added sugar, your yeast, and you're ready to start that fermentation, just go ahead and put your cap on loosely until it just barely stops. I mean, unloosen it about half a turn or so. That should do it. What you don't want to do is to put on this doggone cap so that you end up with possibly just exploding. And that's something we don't want. Just put it on loosely, and that will be that. You don't have to worry about coming back every several days and loosening it to burp it or nothing like that. This method will work just fine and should also keep the bugs out. That's method number one. Now, another popular method that you see a lot on some YouTube channels is the balloon method, where basically you're taking a balloon and you're putting it over the top of your opening and using a pin, just make a small hole to allow the CO2 to escape. And I'm going to do this correctly without making a whole lot of noise as CO2 builds up. Because to fill the balloon, and if you have a hole in there, CO2 to escape. That was quite loud. I'm going to tone that down in the video, but that was kind of loud. And it works effectively. Although in that same video that I just mentioned earlier, one of the reasons why I never used the balloon method is that you're punching a little pinhole size hole in the balloon, but as the balloon expands, and I'm going to do this again, and I'll edit out the noise, so does the hole, which will allow those very same bugs to get in that we're trying to keep out. Okay, suppose you've stepped up your game a bit. You're now ready to start investing in equipment to improve your winemaking hobby. And one of the first things, of course, you get is going to be your airlock. But the problem is having an airlock is that you also need a bung to go with it. But you're not quite sure about this whole bung situation. You know one fits in the other, but you don't really know if your bung is going to fit in your container to stop it up. Not all bungs are created equal. Some are bigger than others. Kind of say, if you got, one way of handling that situation is that you would simply take your cap and drill a hole in it. That works. And what you could do then is you can insert your airlock into your hole. Depending on the size of the hole, you will probably need to seal it up on both sides to create something like this. Same thing. I've originally drilled a hole and sealed it up, and now I've used a small rubber grommet. I don't know if you see that clearly. The little black ring. Probably not, but hey, I tried. Um, and with that, using the original cap will fit, and there you go. You now have an airlock. Now, this is actually the method that I first used when I first started making my first batch of wine, which is this. This is how I first started. Now, suppose you're ready to step up your game. You've decided that you want to start making your wine in something more familiar, like a jug, jar, demi-jar, carboy. Take your pick. In this particular case, this was a 4-liter wine jug that I recycled. This one was a 1-gallon apple juice jug that I've recycled. They're the same things as what you'll find on Amazon. They work just as well. Anyway, all right. So you want to start using an airlock, and you know that you just can't use an airlock like that because something's not going to work. We talked about using a uh, a bung stopper with a hole in it as a means of filling in the hole. Okay, and that works pretty well because when you put in your airlock, you've got something that now looks like that. Now, I should point out, and this is the one thing that I had an issue with when I first started making that leap from using this cap to using just an airlock with a bung, was what size bung is going to fit what size hole, because not all holes are created equal. Okay, turns out that a number 6, so you'll see it here this way, a number 6 bung is what's going to give you the best fit for both, no, for most 1-gallon and 4-liter containers. Yep. The only issues that I find sometimes, and I don't know why, especially with a newer bung, is that when you've got everything in there and the uh, hole is actually kind of wet, that the bung has a tendency sometimes to just slip out, pop out. In which case, I found that it was necessary to get a bunch of twist ties or whatever and basically just secure it for a time being. After a week or so, then it's actually usually pretty good. When you're ready to rack, which is another video for another time, then you can get rid of the twist ties because you really don't need them anymore. But basically, to recap, a number 6 bung will fit most of these type of containers. And basically, that is it. Where can you get these? You get them off Amazon. Most people do. If you don't have a local wine or hobby shop nearby, that's where you go. Sit at Airlocks, about $6.50 for a pack of 3. It's pretty dirt cheap. I didn't get a pricing on the buns. I should have looked before I got online, but it was basically just a piece of hard rubber. Uh, hey, having said that, I now have to say this. Yes, I am an Amazon affiliate, which means that I do earn small commission based on anything that you happen to buy by clicking on the links in the comment section or description section of my video. Now, having got all the legalese out the way, I will say I'll see you in the next video.